All right, I did it. I saw Black Adam. Let's talk about it. What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. This is going to be, I think, the second review that I've done on the channel. Now, I'm no critic, I don't have all the insider knowledge on films and TV. I just give you guys what I can offer, which is my own personal, unfiltered, unsponsored, interpretation or thoughts on films and TV that I watch. That's really it. I don't know. And so today I wanted to give you just my thoughts, my first impressions, and a spoiler-filled review of Black Adam. Like I said, this is going to have spoilers. It's going to have, I'm pretty much just going to talk about pretty much every concept of the film. So if you don't want to know what happens, this has been your fair warning, okay? So yeah, I just want to preface with that and also say that there's not, this is just going to be a straight up 100% review of Black Adam. No special images, background footage, or screens or anything. I just kind of wanted to give you guys just 100% raw reaction to this movie. Okay, so if you guys do enjoy, drop a like on this video. It is very much appreciated, very much helps out the channel, and the video gets seen by more people. Subscribe to the YouTube if you haven't already. We've got trailer reactions that I really enjoy doing. Kind of consider myself the trailer guy. I love doing trailer breakdowns and things like that. I also enjoy doing reviews and just give my personal thoughts on like I said, TVs and movies that I see. So any support is very much appreciated, and let's get into the review. All right, so I don't have any like script or anything on how I wanted to do this. I just wanted to have an open discussion with you guys about the state of this film, what it could mean for the future of DC, and does it meet the mark? Is it overhyped, underhyped, all that stuff? Let's start out with just my general thoughts on the film. Walking into the theater, I was pretty much, I would say that I was relatively excited. I've been waiting for Black Adam for a long time. I was excited to see The Rock in this role, as it seemed like he was pretty invested in the character and in this world and developing this project. So to see it finally get made was really exciting. So I walked into the theater being pretty excited, and I haven't felt that way in a while. I think the last time I was really excited for a film might have been I think I was pretty excited for Top Gun Maverick, but I think the last film was probably The Batman, was the last film that I was very excited to go see. So I think Black Adam was up there for me. I was, I was filled with high hopes based on what I had heard about the film. I was very optimistic about what this could mean for the future of DC. So I went in pretty optimistic, and I walked out feeling more or less the same. I think a lot of the issues that I had with the film really just came down to some of the marketing. They gave away a lot, as these trailers often do, and this isn't just a DC problem. This is a cinema problem. This is a Marvel issue as well. Marvel's very known for giving 2-3 trailers for a film that they're really trying to hype up and market, and by the end of by the time you actually go see the film, you typically have all the pieces in order. Whether you're someone like me who likes to watch all the trailers, maybe you went a step further, you watch the interviews that, with some of the stars, they give a little bit away here and there. And by the time you go see the film and you see all these things play out in the movie, you pretty much weren't surprised by anything. And that was really my issue with Black Adam. Pretty much anything that you could have been excited about was pretty much revealed already. I think there was 1 or 2 moments and cameos that I was not expecting, and those were surprises to me. But for the most part, I kind of knew everything that I had seen was going to be in the film. But does that take away from the film? Not at all. Not at all. Like I said, I walked out of the film feeling pretty optimistic about it. Knowing the negativity that was surrounding the critics' reviews, I definitely went in with the air of caution. When you get that many people saying, whether critics or not, if you get that many people saying a game or a movie or whatever is bad, I mean, there's got to be some truth in it, right? But I feel like the critics were definitely a little far-fetched on it. I don't think this film was a 44%, or I think it's sitting at 52% now. I wouldn't agree with that. I wouldn't agree with that. I think that the audience score is more accurate. It's sitting at a 90%. And I think when it comes to the film, it's exactly what you would expect. It is a fun, charismatic, action-packed film with great fight scenes, cool action. CGI is solid. The score was awesome, and overall, it's just a fun film. And so, I think if you're going in with that air and you're just like, I just want to see a cool action DC film, you're going to get that. You're going to get that for sure. I would say that the 80s and 90% audience reactions that have been posted are pretty accurate. It's a good film. It's not, it's not terrible. And I think if it counts for anything, it's a film I would see again. And if, comparing that to something like Multiverse of Madness, Multiverse of Madness was a film that I saw earlier this year. It was good, but I don't think I'd see it again. Like I'm not jumping off, I'm not jumping out of my seat to go watch Multiverse of Madness again. I saw it once and I was kind of done. I was like, it's all right. But this movie, I would go see this again right now. Like I enjoyed it that much. Like I said, I thought it was fun. And sometimes, especially when, with the reputation that DC has, I think it's good when they can just put a good movie out there. And I think Black Adam was a good movie. Some of the things I liked about the film, like I said, I liked the score. They had some funny moments with some of the song choices that they picked, where they, obviously just, I would say some of them were corny in a way, especially in the beginning. Like the first 30 minutes, you get a scene with the Rock's Black Adam that I felt was a little corny. A lot of slow-mo, a lot of kind of just him making the same facial expression that the Rock has, been known to make, that kind of curious look, like as he's annihilating every enemy he comes across. So that beginning sequence is a little corny for me, and but it wasn't enough to take me out of the film. Like, it was kind of expected. Like, you got The Rock in it, you're gonna have some of those classic corny Rock moments where he's just being a badass, just destroying everything in his sight, no problem, completely overpowered. But it was fun, and a lot of the things that I say, whether good or bad, kind of lean back to that fun factor, where whether you didn't like them or you thought that they, those moments shouldn't have been in the film, or that they were just corny in its entirety, it still kind of led back to just being a fun little moment. Those beginning moments were cool. Some of my favorite interactions in the film definitely had to involve, I would say, The Rock's Black Adam and Hawkman. Hawkman and Black Adam had some of the best dialogue in the film. I think Hawkman as a character had some of the best dialogue, whether he was going toe to toe with, Black Adam, because Hawkman was very about the justice. He was very about doing the right thing, being a good guy. And Black Adam was like, nah, I'm just out here to take care of the bad guys. I don't care if I drop bodies or not. Like, I don't care. Like, they're bad. I'm going to handle them. And Hawkman was very much trying to turn Black Adam's ways. And, they introduced both good and bad moments. But for the most part, the majority of their interactions, I felt like were pretty solid and actually produced some relatively funny moments. I would say that in terms of The Rock's Black Adam, I think that Black Adam was, at its core, a relatively funny character. And I think the funny part about it was that he wasn't trying to be funny. I just think, with a character that has been in, like, I guess, captivity or in his tomb for, 5,000 years, to come back to a much more modern time. It was cool that I applaud Dwayne Johnson and his ability to kind of stay in that kind of ignorant state where, like, he didn't really know a lot of this stuff. There were terms and phrases that he wasn't really familiar with, and I'm glad that he didn't just like wake up from the tomb and just automatically know what an iPhone was, or automatically know what some of these terms and slang that they were using in the film, what they meant. Like sarcasm was a big one that they kind of played on a little bit, or whether it was his catchphrase. Those produced some of the funniest moments in the film. Specifically, speaking of his catchphrase, he talks a lot about the kid in the movie, who we'll get into him in a minute. The kid in the movie was trying to introduce Black Adam to a catchphrase. Every hero has one, and he's trying to get Black Adam to have one. And he comes up with, like, tell them, before you kill your enemies, tell them the Men in Black sent you, or the Man in Black. And and it happens. He finally gets it at the end of the movie, but throughout the course of the film, he's like trying to get the ability to like say it and say it right, and then say it on time. He kills the dude literally right before he finishes saying it. And those produce some of the funniest moments of the film. So, like I said, I think when it comes down to it, there was a lot of moments in the film where I felt like the pacing was good. They introduced comedy at the right time. I found myself laughing throughout a majority of the film, which I think was good, but it wasn't like a comedy like what you would expect from like a Deadpool film. But the comedic moments, as I feel to be a crucial part of any superhero film, I think having comedic moments in there kind of brings you on this elevator, this roller coaster ride, if you will, of, you know, action, intensity, and then comedy. And you're like, oh, okay. And so you're throughout the film, you're constantly engaged because it's not just action and things blowing up every 2 seconds, and it's not just comedy the entire way through, but it was like, yeah, these little nuggets of humor that you're like, oh, that's kind of funny. That's kind of funny. And so, yeah, like I said at the beginning of this review, everything kind of lends back to the film just being funny, and that's definitely not a bad thing. So yeah, I think the humor was definitely one of my favorite aspects of the film. I think the second favorite thing had to be the action. You know, a lot of the reviews have stated that this film is very much action-packed from beginning to end. There's lots of action sequences, some really cool fight scenes, and I love them. That's all I have to say about them. The action sequences were dope, especially against Black Adam and the final boss at the end. I think it was like, I don't remember his name. I keep calling him Sauron because like they had like, I keep calling him Sauron because I've been watching Rings of Power, and they're definitely, you know, Mordor and everything, Sauron, and they had this crown that they're trying to get, and obviously the bad guys are trying to get it so they can revive this ancient evil. And I called him Sauron throughout the whole movie, so I know that's not his name, but just bear with me. I'm calling him Sauron because he had the crown, and it very much felt like Lord of the Rings to me. So yeah, the Black Adam versus Sauron was definitely a dope fight. Even seeing Dr. Fate at the end of the film as he goes toe to toe with Sauron was definitely one of my favorites. If I can applaud anything in the film, it's definitely the CGI. I felt that the CGI in the film was very well done, especially in the moments where you can see that there was a lot of money put in to it, especially with Dr. Fate, because he had different clones of himself, basically doing shadow clone jutsu, and he was, you know, going toe to toe with Sauron, and I felt like that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. It had me like Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate definitely had me feeling like we need a solo film for this guy. Like, we need a solo film. Now, you know, spoiler, he didn't make it through the movie. However, if we can get, I would love to see how he, because I got the impression that he was the one who kind of created the Justice Society, and I don't know if that's accurate. I'm not caught up on all the comics surrounding JSA, but it very much felt like he was kind of the head of that. Him and Hawkman, I guess, kind of formed this thing. And I know they're just 2 members. They only showed 4 members of what is a greater, you know, culmination of characters. But yeah, Hawkman and Pierce Brosnan's Dr. Fate definitely felt like the core pieces of this society. So I would love to see a solo film with either Dr. Fate or Hawkman, or the both of them combined in a film, because Dr. Fate definitely felt like a bigger piece of this movie. And yeah, that's I think that's gonna segue into the things that I didn't like about the film. Let's just buckle up. So the things that I didn't like about the film, I would say, 1, I didn't like the pacing. I felt that the pacing was good in certain points, but especially in the beginning of the film, they bring in the JSA really quick. Like, as soon as Black Adam gets brought out of the tomb, we're going right to Amanda Waller talking to the JSA and being like, oh, who's the team? Oh, we got her guys. This person, Atom Smasher. You know, I call her Lava Girl because she had the red hair. She very much resembled Lava Girl to me. I don't know why. So you got Lava Girl, and then you got Hawkman, and you've got Dr. Fate. And that to me, it's a cool moment. But as I've said before, DC really struggles with the connectivity of its universe and how it, you know, seamlessly meshes. And this is something that Marvel has done almost to perfection, that DC, for some reason, I've never understood why they can't just copy and paste this model and create its own thing. But they have failed at this at almost every turn, and Black Adam, to me, the big con of the film is that it is no exception to the confusion that it elicits to its audience, especially if you're not a fan of the comics. If you don't really know about the comics, DC doesn't really do a good job of introducing you to these characters in a way that is fluid and is not confusing. When you look at Black Adam, they introduce not only Black Adam as a character, it's his origin story, but they're also introducing the half of the JSA, with 4 of its crucial characters being introduced. And you know, had these characters had their own origin story, I think them being inside Black Adam would have made it less confusing, because a lot of the film I feel like is spent, you know, divulging what the JSA is, who they are, what their job is, why they're different than the Justice League, which I still don't fucking know, and, you know, how they're different. So half the film, where it should have been focused entirely on Black Adam's story, heavily focuses on, you know, Black Adam, JSA, Black Adam, JSA, you know, and that to me just felt a little confusing. And what makes matters worse is if you're not a fan, or you don't really know about the comics or, you know, the JSA, you're even more lost throughout this film, because you're like, yo, who are these characters? Why are they important? And the film doesn't really do a good job of explaining their origin, who they are, how they came together. And it almost in many ways kind of felt like the Avengers. I was like, yo, there's a lot of people in this film, and they're being introduced, but if you know DC's reputation, they may never be used again. Like, we really don't know. These characters may not be used again, and that makes me kind of sad. Like, when you have origin stories, you're kind of getting built up to an Avengers level event where they've all kind of had their origins. You care about them individually in their own right. They all have a stake in this game in their own right. And so when they come together and form this team that maybe shouldn't work but does, similar to what we see in the Avengers, it makes it a lot more exciting when they can beat the bad guys, battle through their own adversities and differences as a group, and come together to fight the common evil. I think that's really where DC has missed the mark. Even with the Justice League, you know, they had to go years later. We got, you know, Zack Snyder's Justice League, which in my opinion was moons ahead of what they produced years before. And there's just so much, it's just so messy, man. It's so messy. And so, yeah, I feel like the film was kind of diluted and became a little convoluted by the fact that there was just so many new characters being introduced. And I think, you know, had these characters had their own origin story, been introduced in their own way, in their own time, got their moment to shine, having the JSA in here with so many characters would have made sense, because you would have seen their origin stories before. And now this really just focuses on one main new character, Black Adam. So that was my big complaint. I felt like the JSA definitely deserved more star time, but it just wasn't going to happen in this film. And their attempt to do that kind of took away from the story a little bit, because you're constantly trying to follow two very different threads and how they join together. Now, if Black Adam was inevitably going to join the JSA, then all right, you got something there, right? But when he's offered it at the end of the film, he's like, nah, I'm good. And yeah, like, so the whole point of JSA being there, it really served no purpose to me. It really served no purpose to me. It was cool to see them, and I think when you look at, you know, DC, it's just cool to see these characters coming to light. And I think, you know, if that's all you're looking for is just more DC characters, yeah, that's cool. But for me personally, and I think a lot of people, what I really want is some continuity. I want some connection in its shared universe. How did the JSA fit into this whole story? You know, how does Black Adam fit into this story? And can they do it in a way that is not so damn confusing? So that's all I'll say about the JSA. You know, to be, you know, positive, I really liked their appearance in this film. I thought they were cool. Dr. Fate, absolutely awesome. Hawkman's fight scenes, super dope, and the CGI surrounding them was fantastic. I thought, in my opinion, it was cool, and it wasn't enough to detract me from the film. It's a nitpicky thing that I really wish DC would figure out how to, you know, connect their stories a little bit better and stop introducing you to just masses of characters that you now have to learn and for some reason care about. You know what I mean? So yeah, the whole JSA issue kind of connects my bigger point, which was the story. Story felt kind of disconnected. There was a lot of moments. There were some moments where the story felt like the pacing was solid, and then moments where it just felt like, boom, here you go, right? Black Adam wakes up, JSA's introduced, okay, and they're on the move to go apprehend Black Adam. But I feel like Black Adam didn't really have enough time to like do much bad before JSA really came in. Like, he dealt with the thugs who were already bad guys, but the JSA want to go and stop him? I guess. And the same thing happened at the end of the film, where in terms of continuity, it just kind of felt a little off, where, you know, Black Adam finally did all this bad. He tried to help and it didn't work out. He's like, I'm going to relinquish my powers. He does that. And then they put him in a prison underwater. And not even what I felt like was not even 15 minutes later, Dr. Fate is reversing this decision breaking him out while he's fighting with Sauron, and then Black Adam is back. All right. All right, so it just kind of destroyed that whole arc of him like relinquishing his powers of his own free will and choosing to do kind of the right thing for once, because not even 10 minutes later my man was back in the fight and defeating Sauron like he was nothing. And that was another thing. I feel like Sauron as a villain could have been a little bit better. Black Adam pretty much, in my opinion, handled him like it was nothing. And obviously he had the help of the three other members of the JSA, but yeah, it would have been cool if Black Adam had gone on in this fight alone, completely solo. And I think for the most part in the fight, he definitely took on Sauron one-on-one, but he definitely had some help. And yeah, I feel like the fight would have been better if they had just gone toe-to-toe, for a little bit longer. The fight went on, the fight was over pretty quick, in my opinion. And yeah, that's just a nitpicky thing that I would have liked to see a little differently. And like I said, connects back to my other point of a big con of this film was just kind of the pacing of it. Some things just felt like they happened very fast, and I really wish that they had taken a little more time and fleshed them out a little bit, or got rid of some points that didn't need to be there. And this connects to my third and I think final con of the film, which just some of the writing decisions felt a little bit forced and unnecessary. One moment in particular is at the end of the film when he's obviously put in prison towards the end. He escapes, right, with the help of Dr. Fate, and he's fighting these guys, which I guess is symbolizing the fact that even without his powers, he still has the heart of a champion. He's still fighting despite, the fact that he doesn't have his powers. But one thing that really confused me in the film was the fact that when they're fighting him, they're obviously fighting him with sticks, which is like, you don't really need weapons. Like, he's just a man. And they're fighting him with sticks, but then one guard made the decision to like try to shoot him, and ends up shooting his other guy like 8 times with his M16. And it's just like, I was like, why did he shot his own man? Like, it didn't even feel like a spur of the moment decision. It felt like Black Adam had this dude in a headlock, and then homie was just like, I'm just gonna shoot through you. I mean, it's got to be done. And then everybody else goes to using sticks. So it was like one of those moments was like weird. And then after he fights everybody, he's escaping. I was under the impression that he couldn't take off his mask. Like, he couldn't get it off for some reason. But then 5 minutes later, when he's swimming up to the front, he takes it off. So I was like, okay, so you definitely could have done it down there. Now, maybe it's the heat of the moment, which kind of prevented him from making that decision. But I always felt like it was, after watching the film, I felt like it was a little weird that they didn't have him take off the mask, then shout Shazam, and then go. Maybe he had to be an eyesight of the sky or something to say it. But I think it was really just them trying to create this other Force moment where he has an out-of-body experience, I guess, with his wife and with his son, and they're like, it's not your time yet, and then he says Shazam. But to me, that just felt like a moment that they were trying to force into the story, where he's like, oh, it's not my time. I have a job to do. I gotta go try to be a hero and save these people. But it felt a little forced to me. So a lot of my big issues with the film definitely were with the JSA kind of convoluting the story, and just kind of some of the writing and pacing. But like I said, it wasn't enough to take me out of the film, because the film to me was so fun and the action was so good that it was kind of like that definitely showed, it kind of fixed some of those minute issues for me. So yeah, overall, we've got the good, we've got the bad. I guess I can talk about the ending. The ending was all right. I like how he did the iconic pose. I thought that was a really cool nod to the comics. He did the iconic, hands up, leg up, sitting on the throne, and then went up and decided that he was going to smash it. He didn't want to be their leader, but he would be their protector. So I think he's going to stay around there and protect, Kahndaq, and that was, I guess that's his new job, their protector, but not their leader. They lead themselves. They're free. They don't need a leader, but at least at the end of the day, they have someone looking out for them, which I thought was cool. And I thought that brought the story back together, where he's not really a hero, but he's not a villain either. He's kind of learning. He's flawed. And I think, to me, in my opinion, that makes for some of the best heroes in movies. Ones that don't really lean one way or the other. They kind of have their flaws. They're human in a way. but at the same time, they try their best to make the right decisions. And I thought that was cool. So Black Adam as a character, I really liked him. And I thought he was cool. The electricity powers were very dope. Very felt akin to, I think electricity is one of my favorite elements too. So I always love that. That's why I love Thor. It's why I love The Flash. I just think that element's just so sick. So Black Adam was definitely a cool movie. Now, obviously getting into the spoiler, the biggest spoiler that I think DC did themselves, which was the introduction, Amanda Waller telling him, you know, at the end of the post-credit scene that if you leave Kahndaq, you will be annihilated. And he's like, nobody on this planet can stop me. And she's, oh, I can call in favors from people outside the planet. And that was cool, but it wasn't a surprise. The internet would have absolutely imploded if Superman was introduced, you know, because obviously Henry Cavill's Superman shows up and is like, we need to talk, which felt weird because that also felt weird too, because Amanda Waller was like, I can call in some favors. Did you call in a favor in 0.2 seconds that Superman just showed up? You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe Superman showed up of his own free will, of his own fruition, which was fine. But that felt weird. Another thing that I think was the biggest DC flaw of this film, the biggest con, was that they tried to sell Superman as being in this film, and in my opinion, as a way to sell tickets and get people to come see this movie, to say that we got something big. Now, we're not confirming Superman, but we are confirming Superman. And I knew he was going to be a post-credit scene, so when he showed up, I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, you know, that's cool. That's cool. You know, but it wasn't a surprise, and it's the I will forever say that it's the biggest con of this film. That had they let that be what it is, the internet would have exploded throughout this weekend, and DC would have been at the top of their game because everybody would have been talking about how DC's back, this and that. And that would have been a big treat for the people who did give it a chance and did go see it. But I think they once again, Warner Brothers is really trying to get that paycheck. And so they were like, we want to ensure that this is a big box office hit so we can show the studio and DC and everybody that, like, we did a good job and we made a good film because we made $100 million on this movie. And I think part of that isn't even organic, because part of that is because people want to see Superman. If Superman's in this film, even a tease of it, you can bet your ass a lot more people are going to see it. If they think that the guy that's been on the sidelines forever is finally making a return. But it was still a cool moment. It just wasn't a surprise to me. And like I said, it's a big con for DC. They should have let that be its own surprise. That would have made Black Adam like memorable in so many ways. But that is obviously another discussion for another time. Overall, I enjoyed the film. I found it fun. I found it action-packed. It was interesting in ways, but that is kind of taken away by the fact that the plot can be a little convoluted. The pacing of the plot can be a little forced at times, and overall the film is relatively predictable. Like, you kind of know what's going to happen throughout it. There's nothing surprising here. There's nothing surprising here that you haven't seen in other films. But it's not enough to stop me from enjoying the film, and it definitely isn't enough to stop me from seeing it again. And with that being said, I gotta give this film a solid 8 out of 10, where it's a solid film. It's a film I would see again, and the cons of it don't prevent what is enjoyable about it. So the story, although it may be a little convoluted, and DC does suffer from some of the things in this film that it continues to suffer from in its extended universe, but it's still a good film. It's one that I would still recommend that anyone at least see once. But that's it. That's all for me. I really enjoyed Black Adam. I think it was a solid film. I really enjoyed it, and I hope that this is, you know, I think one thing that I'm still continuing to hope for is an origin. What is the film that really starts the next phase, the new beginning of DC? That is what I was hoping for from Black Adam, and unfortunately I was kind of let down in that way. But, you know, if their point was just to make a fun action film that was charming, charismatic, and had some good moments, they did their job, and it was a successful film. But that's all for me, guys. Like I said, 8.0, that's the rating. I'm not a critic. I enjoyed the film and wanted to share my thoughts with you guys. If you did enjoy the video and watched it all the way through, thank you so much. Drop a like on this video if you did enjoy it. Comment down below what you thought of the film. If you saw it, I hope you saw it if you watched this review. Let me know what you thought. What were your favorite moments in it? And subscribe to the channel if you're new here. We're going to be doing a lot more reviews, trailer reactions, and that sort of thing. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. My name is That Guy Rye. I'll see you in the next one.